Today's guest is Matt Mahoney. Matt goes by the username The Busy Athlete, and that's because he's one of the best when it comes to not being as busy and being more productive. He's been a PT and a coach for the last 13 years. He's opened his own gym so he can understand what it's like to be stressful with endless and endless to-do lists. This episode is really good for those people who are trying to be a little bit more productive and trying to make the days that a little bit less stressful and get training in under a busy schedule. I hope you enjoy this episode. Please follow on Spotify. Please subscribe on YouTube, and let's get into it. Do you think people are becoming a lot busier, or do most people lack productivity?
I think that the perception is that they're busier, but actually you're not that busy. Now, obviously some people are, but I think that the busy, if somebody says that they're busy, it's weird really, because mine's called the busy athlete. If it was called the productive athlete, then it'd sound a bit shit, wouldn't it? But if people are actually busy, they don't go around telling everybody that they're really, really busy. They just get on with it and they organise the time and they get whatever they need to done. Whereas if somebody is and they're not really that busy, then I feel like there's a lot of time there that they're missing and leaving on the table.
And the people who aren't really that busy, I feel like it's so easy for them to tell people, oh, I'm so busy, I'm back to back with work this week, to make other people think that they're a busy person. Yeah. Whereas they could probably get more done if they was a little bit more productive.
100%. Like, I don't, when people say to me, oh, I've been really busy, I go, I'll not say it. In my head, I'll go, like, you're not really that busy because you're saying it. And it's just, you'll obviously get a background of somebody when you're speaking to them, or if they're your mate or if they're a colleague, then you kind of know what the schedule is to some extent, like what time they wake up, or for clients especially, what time they wake up and what time they go to sleep and stuff. So it just comes down to priorities, doesn't it? It's the same, like, it's cliche really, priorities or you being busy, but I do think that it just comes down to you organising your time better. And
would you go about organising what you want to be more busy doing? Would you prioritise, like, what's more important in your week schedule or your daily schedule of, like, say you had a to-do list of what you need to tick off? Like, right, training's number one, then it might be work for coaching, and then it might be, all right, spending time with family, or do you have, like, a sort of list where you categorise things?
I think naturally I go off, I live by my values naturally. Like, I'm not somebody who can write down on paper and go, these are my values, like bang, 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 and I've tried it loads of times. I naturally just gravitate towards what my values are. So mine are, I think, making sure that I stay fit, because if I'm not fit, then I don't show up to my family as best as I can. I'm not a good dad to Koa, or, I'm not the best dad that I could be to Koa. I'm not the best husband to Diana. I'm not the best coach to my clients. So that goes, like, number one. And it doesn't mean that I train all week. I literally spend 45 to 60 minutes in the gym. That's it. This morning I did 35 minutes, but I knew that it was productive, the time that I spent in there. But that literally goes down first. So I know, and I think a big one is having a convo with your partner as well. Like, I'll say to her, if it's at a weird time, the training session, let's just say it's 11, I know that I'm going to be in at 11, it might mess some plans up. So I'll say to Diana, like, I need train at 11 because I've got this on. She understands it. But usually it's either first thing in the morning or once I've got all my work finished. But I know when I'm training the following day. So that's first on the list. After that, then it's work. Because if I'm fit, if my work's productive and I'm doing a good job with my clients, I feel good. But also at the same time, I know that I'm supporting my family. Deep down, family, like, my biggest value. I care about my family and looking after them. So if them two things are organised and sorted and they're on the list, I know my family's going to get taken care of, and I know that I'm going to be a much happier person to be around. So those are my three things, really.
For someone who is struggling to get the training session in, who wants to prioritise that because they're going to feel better, and like you say, then the next priority, whether it's family or someone who's getting into a relationship or wants to perform better at the job, how would they make the training session more productive?
Good question. So if you just, there's different layers, and with yourself, you'll know this as well. Like, there's different layers that you can peel back. So you could put it into maybe 2 or 3 categories. So the first one is a beginner going into the gym, or let's say a beginner, they've trained for a year. They could walk into the gym and they could be on the phone and they could be chatting to their mates and they could be watching a motivational video sat on a bench press.
That's me.
Bumstead doing a bench press, watching him and treating it as your set. If only. But they might be going in for an hour and a half, but you might be going back to phones. You might be on your phone for 20 minutes. You might be speaking to somebody for 20 minutes. So first things first, I would say, make sure that you treat it like you're going on a golf course. Like you literally switch off and you go in and do what it is that you're supposed to be doing. That is the number one thing, because then you can link a lot of stuff into that. If your concentration is not there, then the intention isn't there. And if you're not intending to get stronger or become more mobile or whatever it is, then you're not going to want to learn. And then that's when you peel back another layer, which is, all right, how can I get stronger? How can I make my sessions more efficient? So now you're open to trying to improve when you're in the session. So for the next one, for somebody who does concentrate and are in there, you've got to think about exercise mechanics, obviously. But it's before that, it's what muscle group am I actually hitting and can I actually feel it? And then it's, right, okay, now can I deal with pain? I think those are the two things. That's for the second kind of level, if you want to call it that. But then for the third one, it's, can I improve the way that I'm lifting? Can I build my arousal level up before a session? Can I build it up before a set? Can I calm down during a set? Do I have to have like the right type of music on? Do I not have any music on? What exercise selection do I need to go and train that fits me perfectly, or what to what I think that fits perfectly? What are my goals? There's literally loads. Like it could go on forever listing stuff. But ultimately, it comes down to, can you concentrate and can you deal with pain?
Yeah, one of the things that you touched on was the phone time as well. There was a podcast I listened to driving here this morning with Chris Williamson, and he spoke about a study which said that the average screen time for an adult is 7 hours. No, 8 hours. The average screen time for an adult on the phone is 8 hours, and the average time in bed is 7. So most people are spending more time on the phone than they are in sleep, which is just insane.
That's mental, innit?
I know, and then obviously you've got to think on top of that, the time that they're at work. If you're working a 9 to 5, that's 8 hours. So the time that you've got left in the day is so limited. And if you're trying to go into a gym session and you're on your phone scrolling, don't get me wrong, I understand if you're trying to find that new David Goggins playlist to get you motivated, or if you're messaging someone back and it's important and it's work related, it's just having that sort of switch where it's like, right now it's back to training. Yeah. Or even if you really can, schedule 30 minutes or 40 minutes in where it's like, I'm not even going to touch my phone.
Yeah.
It's so important. And I've been there myself where I've gone into a gym session and my phone's just taken over the whole day, whether it's messaging clients back or it's trying to keep up with a group chat of what bets to put on in the evening or whatever it might be. There's just something that just keeps you attracted towards going on your phone when you've got shit that you need to be focusing on that's more important. But the one thing that you said as well was the intention behind it. And if you've not got that intention, you've not got the goal set, I don't feel like most people want to do the work. They'll just say, right, I'm going to the gym, instead of saying, right, I'm going to turn up and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And that's why it's so important to have a structure, to be motivated, and sort of get a coach would be ideal. But if you don't want to, and you're not in a situation where you can financially, just kind of have a goal set, because you could just come into the gym and you could just say, right, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to do an upper body session, and you've not really got any direction of what machine you need to go on, and then that's when it's like, right, I'm just going to end up going on my phone here. Do you know what I mean? So how important would it be for someone to have that motivation before they then try and have a more efficient session?
I think it goes back to what we was talking about off air, where it takes a certain mindset, and you don't have to be a disciplined person. You just have to understand, like what you've said, like what are your actual goals? Or do you actually just enjoy going to the gym? Somebody who goes and enjoys the gym are likely going to get results, whether it's something that they can see in the mirror or whether it's mental and it just really sets them up for the day, or it helps to wind them down after work at night. If you've got a goal and if you have that mentality where it's it's like it's a lifetime mentality, then I feel like you'll get a lot more done in your sessions because you're not going in there to win that particular session, but you're going in there with an intention of, if I do this and I think about my form and I try and beat my last week's logbook with one rep or one set, or even eccentrics that I need to work on this week, then ultimately that's going to lead to a bigger goal. But the actual goal is you going in, switching off, being able to improve your hobby, which is training, and that ultimately that leads to better results. And you're not going to want to go on your phone. You're going to want to go in and try and improve, which ultimately that's what training is, isn't it? And wanting to eat well, and if it isn't weight training, it could be something else. It could be another hobby where some people might not necessarily be into training, but it could be something outside of that. If it's a hobby, you're going to want to improve on it.
And then that, like you touched on at the start, the enjoyment side, I think that's so important. Like you said, it doesn't have to be trading. It could be studying. It could be some sort of sport. It could even just be going spending time with family or friends. If you're trying to schedule in time to do something, you need to have the differentiation between passion and enjoyment, because with training, you're not going to feel amazing every single time you step into the gym. You will lack motivation some days and it will be hard, but it's the gratification 6 months down the line where you look back and you're like, wow, I've made so much progress. I'm a lot more efficient. I feel a lot healthier. My mind's a lot clearer. I vet well. I don't feel as sluggish on the weekends or whatever it might be. It's that sort of instant gratification that people look for that you hear so much on podcasts, but it's so true that when you do look back after putting in the work over a long period of time, that's when you respect what you've actually done. But then if somebody's knowing that they need to improve and they need to fit certain sort of times into the day to do things, let's say the studying or the work that they need to do, how would they go about prioritising the day where they make sure that that gets done?
First thing in the morning. I think it's either first thing in the morning or last thing at night. That's it. There's too many distractions during the day, isn't there? Like, it doesn't matter whether you've got a family or you're studying, like you just finished. You're studying 2-1, baby.
Yes, let's go. Don't have to worry about that anymore.
But there's that many distractions, you can't afford not to chance it. Put it in at the beginning of the day. If you need to wake up earlier, then you wake up earlier. Like you wake up earlier and you go to bed earlier. There's a massive correlation between you organising things outside of a gym session to the actual results in it and your want to actually go to the gym. So that comes down to, what time do I need to go half an hour earlier to bed? Do I need to wake up half an hour earlier? No, I need to wake up 45 minutes earlier. Well, wake up 45 minutes earlier, otherwise you're not going to get the opportunity to do it. If you need to do it in the evening time, you prefer to work out in the evening time, it's exactly the same. You might feel tired before you actually go in, but when you're there, like everybody knows, like as soon as you're in, you're in. Training doesn't feel nice, and when you're in sets, it feels fucking awful. And you'll go into a set, let's say it's a pendulum squat, and you're trying to aim for a top set, and you go in, and you're not going to go, I can't wait for this. You're going to want to not fucking do it. And it's the same with the whole leg session. But after it, like you said, it's about not instant gratification, but being grateful for the fact that you're able to do whatever it is that you want to do with your body, and feeling buzzing on the way home because you just smashed a session. So when people say, and I did a post yesterday, like I love training, or it might have been this morning, it was that early. Yeah, I think it was this morning. I love training, but it's not actually the sets, it's everything that comes around with it. If I didn't have training, then I don't know what I'd be doing. I literally don't know what I'd be doing. And it's all of the things that you build around that pendulum squat or that horrible leg extension set that you're doing. It's everything that you build around that and what it actually means. It's not the pain that you're going through during the set. Yeah,
and it's those little wins as well. Like you said, if you're gearing up for that heavy top set pendulum squat, which has made me throw up in the past, actually.
Has it?
It actually has. On a side note, I started shaking when you mentioned it. It's that personal win that, you know, you can do these hard things, and that's what builds up your resilience and your confidence to go and do something else. Because if you're not doing anything that's hard or difficult and coming out the back of it a stronger person, how are you going to go and attack the next big thing? And that can correlate over to work. If you're pushing hard in your training sessions, you're pushing to failure. It's like, right, now when I study or now when I go into that interview, I'm going to smash it because I've done it in my training, I've done it outside, and I'm that person. I think you can take so much from training from a personality perspective where it helps you level up. And one of the things you touched on was getting up earlier or doing your work later on in the evening. What if, on the flip side, the lad or the girl who's listening who is mega productive and they try and strategize every single part of the day where they're getting up really early and they're just filling up every spare minute with trying to do some form of work? How would they then look to have that downtime?
You've got to, it's just like when you asked me earlier, what would you put in a list of things to do? Where would you prioritize your time? It comes down to, again, prioritizing 5 minutes. So let's just say that you've got every single hour that's absolutely crammed and you've no time at all. You've got 5 minutes to set your alarm and go outside in the sun and stick your face in the sun and concentrate on how you're breathing and concentrate on how your body's feeling. And that takes practice, because it's not as easy as just sitting outside in the sun, because you've got a million things, to think about. You've just finished work and you're going back into it in 4 minutes. But I think the more you practice that, it's meditation. The more you practice that, the more you're exposing yourself to trying to clear your mind and allowing these thoughts to pass and so on. And it's the same as you getting under a heavy barbell. It's just the same. It's practice. So I feel like if you prioritize your mental health and you prioritize your productivity in that way, then you're going to have more of an ability to go, right, I'm back to back to back to back. I can't wait for this 5 minutes, rather than going, fuck am I going to do in this 5 minutes? Like, he's just, Matt is my coach, as an example. He just told me to do 5 minutes and sit in the sun. You might sit in the garden and think, what the fuck am I doing here, and just staring in the sun? But over time, you'll come to realize that is a really, really, probably one of the most important 5 minutes of your day or your week.
It's just grounding yourself and being more grateful. One of the things that my mum always said to me when I was younger was, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. Because I'd always try and fit every single minute of my day with trying to do something productive, because there's so many tools out there, with when it comes to self-improvement. You can scroll on TikTok for 3 minutes and you feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you need to be doing something else better than the next person. And I feel like a lot of people can fall into the habit where they're trying to level themselves up in every single possible area in their life, but they're not actually enjoying anything. There's no downtime, there's no relaxing. It's like, how can I improve this business? How can I get better at this part of my job? How can I better my relationship? How can I get fitter? Single digit body fat. There's always some sort of extreme goal which can take over everything. But like you said, just for 5 minutes of a day where your mind's where your feet are and you're grounded and you're grateful, where you can appreciate what's actually going on at the minute.
That's absolutely bang on. I was listening to I just started a mentorship with Total Mental Performance. They're trying to sharpen your thoughts and just narrow it into whatever it is that you want to try and pursue. And he was talking about, you would never go into the gym and train shoulders every day. Or, well, CrossFitters would, but well, they wouldn't really. Maybe a little bit. Or go and train your legs every day. You need to recover. Why would you do the same thing with your brain? Like, why would you just go in and try and hammer studying or try and hammer work and expect to be able to adapt from it? Like, there's just no, when you put it like that, and even more so, your body's your body. So to some extent, it could adapt, but your brain needs some rest. So why wouldn't you just take that time out and put it in?
There's a quote, thoughts are there to think about, not to hold on to. And that's what made me start journaling. So I had to get loads of thoughts, like you said, where you're constantly trying to think about improving throughout the day. And then it comes to the end of the day and I'd be like, right, I'm just going to write everything down that I thought about, because I won't be able to sleep. Because you can get to the point where, like you said, your brain's on fire all day, trying to level stuff up all the time. You could be spending time with a loved one or a friend, and you don't even feel like you're in that. You're experiencing that situation. You could be sat in the pub watching the England game. You don't feel like you're there because you're thinking about how many check-ins you want to be doing in the next couple of weeks, or how you're going to get that new client, or how you're going to develop your physique in some sort of way. What sort of exercises can grow my chest more? Your brain can't settle.
Do you know, so I started going back to meditation. I started doing meditation probably a year into personal training. So I'd probably say I started it about 12 years ago or 11 years ago. And it's hard to start with. And you're not aware of things like what you've mentioned with regards to just being present. Like, there's loads and loads of people who don't enjoy just the simple things because they're concentrating on X, Y, and Z. And even that takes practice. But it's something that over the last probably 2 years, I've started to become not aware of, but I've improved on being more present. So, as an example, my little lad Koa, he's playing in the living room, and I can't stop thinking about work or this new thing that I'm trying to develop or whatever it is. I'll now know, so I'll think, you know what? For 10 minutes there, he's been going around, and I've been thinking about work, or I've been thinking about what I need to do. Like Dinah's picking him up. My wife Dinah is picking him up in half an hour. Come on, like I need to get this stuff done. And instead, I've started grabbing myself and going, whoa, like he's not going to be two forever. He's bringing his toys and stuff, and you're thinking about work. Or again, like I'm on my phone messaging people back. I've started grabbing myself sooner, and you know what? It makes me feel better knowing that I'm in control of that. Every night, I would say probably 90% of nights now, if my mind's racing and it's going to affect my sleep, or like what you said, you can't stop just thinking about how to level up. It's automatic that I'll meditate for at least 3 minutes, and it might not seem a lot, but 3 minutes has a compound effect on it. And reading as well. So those two things help me sleep like that. And it's just catching myself and being aware of myself. And I think that that's what being present is. It's not necessarily being present all the time. It's not that. It's being aware of when you do need to pull yourself back in.
Yeah, I agree. I think another good one to add on that list as well would be some form of activity, but obviously not before you go to bed, but maybe once a week. Like for me, I started playing golf, like I mentioned to you before we started, and you can't think about anything besides how bad you are. No, but because it's something completely new, don't get me wrong, you do get frustrated, but there's a little bit of a competitive side to it, and you can't think about anything else. Your phone's on Do Not Disturb, you put it in your golf bag, and all you're thinking about is playing golf. And it's so relaxing, and you're so present in the moment. You're out in the fresh air, wherever you might be, and it's just something that's a little bit enjoyable, but also takes your mind away from trying to conquer the world, so to speak, because I feel like a lot of people can get that into the mentality that they're just not good enough. And it's frustrating. It's so frustrating, because then, like you said, that time where you might not be spending that as much time with your son, or you might not be spending as much time with the missus or whatever, you feel like you're losing out on that. But then it's like, but I'm supposed to be sacrificing what I love to be successful. It's like, how would somebody go about finding that balance?
Do you know, mate, this is good that we're talking about this, because I think it was 4, maybe 5 weeks ago, I said to my coach, right, I'm ready to get lean. And I've done it in the past a couple of times. And year round, I'm in all right shape, but every so often you'll go, I want to get lean. Going back to Bumstead, you might see him on Machiavelli Motivation, something like that, and go,
Machiavelli Motivation.
How good is that?
They've sent me into some rabbit holes.
Class, isn't it? But I don't know. I think it was just like with yourself, you like putting like blocks like pinpoints in the calendar where you're building up to this, because it goes back to you challenging yourself and testing yourself, and you know you're going to grow out of whatever challenge you put yourself under. So for me, I've not been able to do running, which I got into last year. So it was something where it was kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. I want to get lean. Like I can't run to what I want to be able to run like yet. I'll get lean instead. So during it, I was fine like the first couple of weeks. And then I picked my lad up from nursery, and he saw this big ice cream driving past, and he's like, I want ice cream. So I was like, we'll go and get an ice cream. I was like, what colour do you want? He's like, pink ice cream. So I was like, okay, we'll go and get you a pink ice cream. So now we do that every week now, every Monday. But I was sat there with him, and he held his ice cream out to me, and he went, Daddy wants some. Like he's proper kind with his food, not so much with his toys and stuff, but with his food he is. And he goes, Daddy wants some. And I was like, no, Daddy not want some. And I thought, I'm sat here with you in Fredericks, you're 2 years old, you're asking me, do I want ice cream? And I'm saying no. And immediately then, in my head, I went, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And that day as well, I would say, I felt like, is it right? And that moment when he asked me, did you want ice cream? In my head, I went, this ain't right for you. So then I had the ice cream, obviously.
Good man.
Yeah.
Was it good?
It was good, mate, yeah.
Frederick's unreal.
Yeah. But then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I was still mulling it around in my mind and I still felt like miserable. As soon as I thought, you know what, I'm going to get lean, something like springing my step or whatever it was, it kind of like got taken away. And it was because of this. Like, I know now I'm not the same person 5 years ago. So with me trying to get lean back then, I knew the reasons why and I did it. Now I understand where I'm at. I don't need to look towards what everybody else is doing in terms of like how they're holding themselves for the physique and want it, because I know that I want an ice cream with my lad. I also know that I train hard. I also know that I eat well 85% of the time. It allows me to be healthier, be there for my lad, and so on. So I messaged my coach on the Friday, I think it was, and I said, and it was hard for me to do because it was the first time I've ever done it. I was like, I'm not going to do a photo shoot. So he went, right, well, yeah, that's fine. Just understand the reasons why you're doing it. Journal on it, and I didn't need to. I literally put the page out and went, brrr, just banged it all out there, and I've never felt as a decision that I've made. I'd never felt as happy that I'd made one, because then that's allowed me then to, things have clicked with my business as well in the way that I'm talking to people now. Like, they have to understand the importance of it, not just because they want to get lean, but what's the reasons why. And it goes back to longevity. Like, if you really, like a pinpoint straight, know exactly why you're doing it, you will get unbelievable results. And the results don't always mean how lean you get. It comes down to how do you actually fucking feel during the day, and how are you turning up as your best self. That's
so important. And like you said, you then having that conversation with your coach and writing it down, you already knew what you wanted to write down. That's you categorising what's most important. But you can still have that little bit of a ice cream or whatever, but you know then what you need to do to work around it. If you was to get lean, but say if it was to get to a photo shoot, it's like, right, I'll accept that might not be the end goal, but what else can I do? Do you know what I mean? I think some people struggle to actually set the goal first, and that comes down to what you said. It's the reason why. Don't just say, yeah, I want six-pack abs and not actually know what it takes. It's important for coaches to take the clients through the journey, how hard it's going to be, and actually help them understand what it's going to feel like 12, 16 weeks in.
Absolutely, yeah. I do think that everybody has to test themselves and do it, whether that's a photo shoot or just test themselves to go on holiday and turn up and show a level of discipline daily for 8, 10, 12, 16, 20 weeks, whatever it is. I do think you need to expose yourself to that because it creates character.
And I think dieting's so important as well, just based off the fact that you become so more appreciative just for food. And I think a lot of people actually take it for granted, especially now. I had this conversation with Nathan, the first ever episode that I had for this podcast, and just saying how a lot of people probably don't understand what it's like to feel hungry anymore, because it's so easy to get food delivered to your door. You can just go into Co-op and get a meal deal like it's absolutely nothing. And you can eat so much food without actually realising that, you know, if you was to do a diet, you'd be on a lot less, but you'd end up feeling a lot better.
Yeah. I think my biggest reason why I'm in the fitness industry is because people don't realise how good they can actually feel. That goes back down to your nutrition. If you're excusing yourself and having an ice cream 5 times a week, but then also you're excusing yourself and you're not going training in the morning when you said you would, and you're excusing yourself because your kids wants you to run after them, but you can't. It's all right because I've got this and this. You're making too many excuses and you're not exposed yourself to that level of living where you know you're capable of, because you've never actually experienced it. So for me saying, yeah, you know, I'm going to have some ice cream, that isn't me showing a lack of willpower. That's me showing what my values are. My willpower is me waking up in the morning. My willpower is me getting organised for 85% of the time of the week. My willpower is me finishing work at night time and going training at 7:30 when I really can't be asked. I go to sleep at I get in bed about 9:15 every night. So me getting back from the gym at 9:15 is an absolute killer. But I know the importance of that, and I know what that discipline will do for me in the long run.
And that's just come from a stack of results that you've gained over the period that you've been in shape and from training, like you said, going back to when you got someone gets under the pendulum squat and does the heavy set. It's you can have your values where go and have the ice cream because you've got that undeniable proof that you know how you can work around it and that you've built up the self-confidence, the resilience to train hard, get up earlier in the morning, do the late night training session, which nobody else wants to do, which makes you then sit back and think, do you know what, no, I am okay doing this. And a lot of people never experience that feeling because they don't do the hard work first.
I think that's why people struggle with balance. Like I think it's very easy now to look and go, I want to get in shape and, you know, try and aim towards this physique or this thing. And actually it's unrealistic to think that they could get that. So then they're kind of stuck in no man's land. And then all of a sudden they're back to square one. I think that balance is being able to show up and be disciplined with what it is that you say you're going to do, but then also give yourself that time to go, I want to go out with my son and have whatever it is that I fancy. I know that I'm waking up in the morning like your missus is going, you know, would you be able to take Cole to school in the morning, or take Cole to school, take him to nursery at like 7. Right, yeah. I know I need to wake up at 5:15. I think that's the struggle that people they can't quite grasp, because you can't excuse yourself for too many things, and if you start doing that, it becomes a habit and it swears the other way. So you have to continuously put things in your way that you know you're going to turn up for, because that's when then you can allow things, you know, to filter in and you can actually enjoy them. That's where the balance comes, 100%.
And then with balance, if somebody's got a very well organised, productive day set for tomorrow, would it be better for them to go and attack the day, or should they be going about it in a way that they're relaxed and they understand the jobs that they've got to tick off, or is there a balance between how much you push in certain days compared to others?
I think it goes back to like adaptation, doesn't it? Like if you was to push, like for me personally, like I'll go hard Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'll start tailing off, and then I'll wake up Thursday and I'll try and do it again, and it doesn't work.
That's similar to me. I usually push hard Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with training. Friday is more laid back. It's more to work at home. Saturday I've got a big session. Then Sunday's just complete, like shut off from everything.
Mine's more so like the brain. So like I can't stop thinking and I need to get stuff done, and I'll work 100 mile an hour. But then towards the Wednesday, I'm like, right, I'm trying to force this. It's like trying to start a car and it just won't go. That's what happens. So I know that I need to. This is again coming back to being self-aware and just, you know, like that continuous refinement of it. I know that Wednesday morning I'll work better for the rest of the week if I have Wednesday morning off. But in my brain, I'm like, right, it's Wednesday. It's only Wednesday. I need to keep going. But in actual fact, I need to kind of like put the brakes on. So I think it is person specific. I think most people just need to understand that you can't go at it hard every single day.
Because you'll burn out.
You'll burn out, yeah, 100%.
How would you recognise that you're burning out? Is it more to do with, like you said, the brain, where it's, you know that you're struggling and everything starts, quality of the work goes down, or is it that you actually start to feel worse? What's the first couple of signs?
I think, again, it's like, it's person specific. For me, I think I've only really truly burned out once. People think that they'll burn out, and they might do, but then you also might just be tired and you might just need to give yourself a break for 2 days. For me, looking back, it was lack of enjoyment with things that I was doing. I wouldn't say I was depressed, but it was a lack of enjoyment where I lost that spring in my step to go and PT or to go and do a class. Like I lost that. And then I was going in training. I didn't really feel like training. I'd feel good after it, but I'd go in and I didn't really feel like it. So it's almost like I was dragging my feet. And then before you know it, you start kind of, you'll kind of like go through the next few weeks where you're like, why? You know what I do? I need a break. So then you book a holiday, and that might not quite be enough. So then you need to go back and do a little bit more self-work and start writing things down on what you actually need to do and break down your week so that you can actually get some organisation back. Because I think that the disorganisation comes through that as well. I think there's a lot of things that can happen if somebody is to become burnt out or just exhausted and need a break. That's what I think.
In my opinion, it always comes down to, like I said, it's person dependent, but always the individuals who are trying to fill up every hour of the day with something to help them improve the work. I feel like it's very common with people who are self-employed, because at the end of the day, they control every part of the business. But it can be for someone who's working the 9 to 5 as well, and then when they're back at home, they can't stop thinking about work. The main thing is just being self-aware and having that time to shut off. For someone who is really, really busy, what's an effective way for them to get their to-do list ticked off?
So, again, it depends, but it's a shit answer. For me, I like doing things first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
For others, they like doing things later in the day.
Yeah.
Some people like doing it and splitting it up.
Yeah.
I think creating a list is the biggest one. Like, if most people work off lists, if you're right in front of you, it's pretty hard not to like go off the list. So I think that for me, I know that if I've got a list there and it's getting ticked off, you get little quick wins, but then that builds up and you build momentum for the rest of the day. The hard thing is for me switching off then.
And then another thing I was going to ask off the back of that, if you don't tick everything off on that list, how would that make you feel?
Personally, good question. So let's just say you've got so what I used to do, and Diana used to take the mick out of me for this, but I used to write, like, I did so well with lists. Once I started writing them, somebody said, like, why don't you write a list? So I started, and I got really good at ticking them off. But then what I started doing was writing, like, just things that didn't need to be on the list.
Yeah.
So then I got over obsessed with writing this list, and it could be like 15 things that would be written down on the list, and it would chip away at me, and I'd get frustrated, and that frustration would just build because I've not ticked anything that's off on my list. It would lead me to then becoming less productive. So instead, what I do is become a lot more realistic with my time. Goes back to what you actually want to do in your week and how you want to pack it out. And you list the priorities of maybe like 3 to 5 things that you want to do. I think it's Andy Frisella that he says something like, do 5 things every day. Like, those 5 things are your priority, and just tick them off, because everything else is just wasted time, or it's unproductive time.
I think there's something that I've thought about, because I was very similar to you when it comes to the to-do list, and then it just got longer and longer and longer and longer with more and more extreme goals throughout the day. And I imagine a productivity bell curve graph. I don't know if you've ever seen one, but doing those first 3 things and writing those first 3 things down for someone who's lacking productivity and is really busy, I think so important, because they get those little wins of doing those to-do list activities or jobs, and then it makes them want to be more productive. But when you get to a point where you're prioritizing being productive so much, and you've got 20 things on that list, and some of them are so extreme that you're not physically going to be able to do them in the day, you just tip off the edge of a cliff, and you come right back down to square one, where, like you said, you go past the point of being productive, and now you're not productive. And there's just this big swinging pendulum of people who are trying to be overly productive and people who just aren't productive at all.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to find the balance between them both. But I think for the people who are striving to set up a successful business, get in really good shape, run a triathlon, do an IROX or whatever it might be, or study and get a really good degree, it's, if you don't tick everything off in the day and it's hard, that's a sign that, you know, you're doing well. And sometimes you just have to leave things for the next day or leave it for later in the week, and just accept that, you know, you don't have to do everything on a Wednesday night.
I think the thing with high achievers is you never give yourself a pat on the back. So then if you never give yourself a pat on the back, you never learn to give yourself appreciation. And then once you reach that thing that you're working so hard for, what does it feel like? What's the point in you doing it if you're not actually grateful for the fact that you've showed up every single day and ticked it off? So I think it comes down to understanding why you're actually doing the thing first, and actually practice being grateful for the fact that you've managed to tick off whatever it is that you've had on your list. If you're doing it and there's a lot of things that you're ticking off and you feel unhappy because you're consistently missing it, then I think that you go back to, why the hell am I actually doing this in the first place?
Or am I setting an unrealistic goal?
unrealistic goal, yeah.
I feel like a lot of people
Yeah.
can do that and they don't realise. That's something that I've noticed I do recently, where you're just being a little bit too unrealistic here, Dylan. You're setting yourself to do something that you know you're not going to do, and you're kind of giving yourself a kick in the dick. You're kind of being harsh on yourself, whether that's because I want to do really well in whatever it is that I'm planning to do, and for the other person who's in a similar situation themselves, it's like 99% of the time you're not going to feel good enough, and then when you get that 1% win, you're going to feel good for about 2 minutes when it happens, and then it's like, right, what's on to the next thing? And that's why it's so important to be self-aware of not only just appreciating what you've currently got right now, but when you are working towards something, when you achieve that thing that you wanted to achieve, enjoy that as well.
Yeah. I think it's human instinct to just continuously not bash yourself, but always think that you've got stuff to do, or you think negatively about some of the work that you might have done. You didn't. You could have maybe pushed that bit more in training, or feeling guilty about X, Y, and Z. Like not being present enough, as an example. And I think that as humans, like we're constantly we're constantly trying to nitpick at ourselves, and it's very, very hard to think positively about it. So if you even just practicing trying to be positive about yourself, you'll start to rewire your brain to thinking, you know what, well done. Yeah. Out of nowhere, you'll be like, fucking hell, well done. Who the fuck said that? But it is literally like when I was doing therapy, my therapist said to me, it's literally like, imagine that you've got two roads, and one of them's got loads of weeds down. There's not been a car on there for fucking years. And then the other one is like fucking so clean and tarmacked up, and the paint's fresh and all that kind of stuff. So if you continuously say that you're not good enough, and you never show any signs of going, you know what, well done, then the path is just going to stay like that, and you're never going to know how to drive down it because it's that overgrown. Whereas if you start just chipping away at it and driving down once every so often, over time that starts to build, and that's where then you can come back to, you know what, I'm doing a fucking good job here. You might be a funny one for me was, I know I've said like I started maybe 11, 12 years ago meditating and being more self-aware. I set off with a goal and it was unrealistic, so it's linking back to what we were talking about, unrealistic expectations. An unrealistic expectation of mine 12 years ago was to read, because I struggle, I can fucking read, but I struggle to read books. Like my first one was I was going to say Dwayne Johnson, then it's not him. Dwayne Chambers, the sprinter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sick book.
I've never read it.
I think Unleash the Dragon.
I've seen it.
Yeah. Loved it. So it was work, read, meditate, study, and get steps in. So it was 5. And I never did it for years and years. I never did it. And then I think it was about 8 months ago, I woke up on a Saturday morning and I meditated, I studied, I read, I went and trained, I went and did the fucking housework, and it weren't even 9 o'clock.
Oh wow.
But because I've practiced it over and over again and refined it, and it's not just the act of doing it, it's the actual thinking that you can actually do it, in it. That's half of the battle. And it was a realistic goal, and I've done it. And I've done that since. I probably say out of the week, I probably hit it 3 times at least. But for years, I was like, you've fucking not done it again. You've not done it again. And it goes back to the negative path that you keep telling yourself, the negative thoughts that you keep telling yourself, like you're not good enough, etc.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start exposing yourself to that and you actually believe what you're capable of, good shit starts happening.
And it's a lot easier.
A lot easier. So much easier.
There's something that I read about the productivity paradox, and it's basically saying how, like you've just said there, you had the 5 things that you wanted to tick off, but there might be so many other jobs in the day that you might not be able to do. For someone who's got a long-term goal set, they know that they might need to do X, Y, and Z, whether it's the steps because you know you're wanting to get lean, but they might have the other work that they need to do to level up the business, and they categorize everything into the week, so they know what they need to do first and they know what comes last, and they try and tick everything off in the to-do list. But they beat themselves up because they don't feel good enough, because that one last thing on the to-do list that they've not done, they feel like they should, and if they don't, they're not going to be successful. But they also then feel like when they're trying to do the work that's hard, they don't end up doing it and they end up doing something else. So a lot of people end up getting distracted, and they're going through this sort of weird sensation of feeling like they're being productive, but they're actually not. I know I've tried to start a uni assignment before, and the next thing I know, I'm downstairs cleaning the dishes that I left from when like my mum's left, and it's like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But it's making me feel like I'm doing something productive, but I'm not doing the work that needs to be done. And that can come with being self-aware as well, and understanding that you're bitching out, so to speak, or you're shadowing away from doing the hard stuff when you need to be doing that hard stuff. And once you come to realization of being more self-aware, that's when you can start to tick off those 5 things in the morning. That's when you can be, it's a lot easier, because you know that those things need to be done, rather than they can be done, but I'm just going to leave them till the end of the day.
Yeah, you calm down and you speed up. I after like during the COVID bit, I was trying to keep the gym going, and I was doing like the Zoom classes like pretty much most people were doing.
Yes.
But then we moved into an apartment because our house weren't quite ready. And then on top of that, we had somebody tried to close down the gym. Like they kind of like short on the hours, so then the main bulk of the classes they couldn't actually happen. So we had COVID, doing the Zoom online classes. We had the council trying to a guy trying to shut the gym down. And then Diana had a miscarriage. So then we was in this apartment. All of this shit was happening. And I thought, I need to do something else. My head's going to pop. So randomly, I came across this Bob Proctor. I'm getting to the point in a minute. Randomly, I came to this Bob Proctor meditation. Have you come across it?
No.
It's a 20-minute meditation. And it's called the Abundance Meditation. It's class.
Where would I find that?
Spotify, YouTube. You can link it in the...
I'm going to.
Video, yeah. It's unbelievable, right? But I misheard it. So, at the start, I thought he said, listen to this meditation every day for 30 days. So, for every day for 30 days, I woke up, lit a candle, got some fucking incense on, and I did it for 30 days, and I felt unbelievable, and it worked, an absolute treat. Otherwise, my head would have fallen off. But in the meditation, it says you'll learn how to speed up and calm down. And it's true. Like, if you learn how to slow down, you will get a lot more stuff done. Going back to the very start of the podcast, when you asked me, do people think that they're busy, or is it actually that they're just overwhelmed or
lack productivity?
It's people are so fast now to do stuff, and that's where then they feel like they've not got a lot of time. I get it 100% if you are a busy person, but if you prioritize turning up for your son or daughter, if you prioritize turning up for your partner, if you prioritize being the best version of yourself for work, then you need to put some time in for that. So how do you do that? You need to slow down. You need to come away from device, or stop watching telly and go and do something for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, because that's all it takes. So then you will start to take moments out of the day. You'll spend 5 minutes in the sun. You'll spend 10 minutes walking around the block. And that's how then you'll speed up and slow down and live a happier life. That's what I think anyway.
I agree, 100%. There's a quote, sometimes rather than doing more, you need to focus on less. And a lot of people who are striving to self-improve, like we've spoken about throughout this podcast, can struggle to think slow and take a step back. And like we said at the very start of the podcast, one of the reasons I brought up that question of are people busy or less productive is because busy can be seen as some sort of status quo, where when you're talking to friends or family, it makes you feel or seem like you're successful or you're doing well. I'm so busy at the minute, or I'm so busy, I'm back to back, etc., etc. But are you really that busy? Or are you just trying to let other people think that you're busy when you're just filling up your time with watching every single Euros game that's been on at the minute, or you're watching all the different Netflix series that you can? Some people, and I know we've obviously spoken about how the person who's really productive can slow down and be more grateful. Some people do need the kick up the arse and to be like, right, you're not actually as busy as you say you are. Go and crack on and do some work.
Yeah. I think you only know, don't you? Like, if you say to somebody, I'm busy, there'll be your own reasons why you're saying that. But I've told people in the past I'm busy and things, and it's built up over time where I'm like, stop fucking saying you're busy. because you're not. It's just priorities. And it's ultimately like, if you're busy by the age 80, are you still going to be saying you're busy? And if you are, you're going to be left with a life full of fucking regret, because you've just continuously rammed your time with just shit because you're continuously saying that you're busy.
So outside of meditation, before we wrap this up, what would be the best tip you could give to someone who is back-to-back busy? Because I feel like most of those people will probably listen to this right now. If you're not, then I apologise. To be more grounded and understand that they need to slow down.
Good question. Feeling stressed, feeling unhappy, feeling like you could be giving more, feeling like a victim.
That's a big one.
Yeah, 100%. And you don't necessarily have to be projecting it to people and getting them, you asking them to feel sorry for you by you just explaining things. It could just be within your own thoughts and going, this is not happening for me. This is not happening for me.
And that could come from like envy or someone else being and doing well. You then think, oh, well, that's lucky for them. It's not lucky for me. I'm in a worse situation. But would that just come down to people lacking self-responsibility?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And again, like, at what point in your life will it take you to stand up and just think, you know what, I want more for my life? Not for anybody else other than yourself to start with. Like, do you want to be hitting 70, 80 years old and just feeling pissed off at the fact that you've wasted loads of years? Because most people now will enter the 30s, the 40s, and they'll be like, oh shit, I've wasted what time I've got. And then they'll dwell on it and they'll become a victim, and then they'll start to dislike certain things. Maybe they'll start to become resentful about themselves and to others. So I think that if you're feeling all of those things, then number one, you need to stop fucking feeling sorry for yourself, because you're the only person with your two hands that can actually make it happen. And then don't just go and smash the gym 7 days a week. Be smart about it. Go in and train twice if you think you're not sure whether you can keep it up. Train twice and make a promise to yourself, because you'll remember your promises. It's living by your own integrity. And I think that over time that will develop, and it will build up into confidence, and then it'll build up into something else. But at its core, it is all about just being a lot more self-aware, and then taking a step in the right direction.
Sick, mate. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. It's been such a good episode. If somebody was wanting to find yourself, where would be the best place to go?
Currently, Instagram at The Busy Athlete. I've also just branched out, and I'm creating a new community called @busyathletes. Sorry, I said that wrong. @busyathletes with a dot in the middle.
So @busy.athletes.
That's the one. Needed to practice that. That's the first time I said it out loud. On those, and then there's lots of reviews on Google and that kind of thing. Just uploaded a shitload of videos on YouTube as well. So if anybody's struggling for being able to understand technique, then there's a lot of videos on there, along with some short ones as well. So I've kind of tried to mix it up. I've literally just finished that yesterday.
And then will that help people who are trying to get a more effective session in as well?
100%. So for me, as an example, I train, on average, I'll probably train between 40 and 60 minutes, and most of the time I'll do 2 sets. So it's about breaking down the movement itself and getting the most out of it in as very little time as possible, and that's what I push onto my clients as well.
Well, the YouTube will be in the description, 100%, but what's the name of the YouTube as well, just for people?
The Busy Athlete.
Perfect. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Matt. It's been a pleasure. And if anyone is enjoying these episodes, I hope you are. If you've listened all this way through, you should be. Please follow on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube. It helps me out a lot more than you can think. And if you've got any feedback on the episodes, that's appreciated as well. You can send it over to me, and I'll catch you in the next one.